Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Today I got an exciting video. Behind me is the CT5 Blackwing and we're modding it this time. Last time it was on the channel, it was a different color. It wasn't even this one. Crazy. Well, this time we're going into the internals and we're gonna make some changes. We're gonna start in steps. So this step right now is we are going to change the exhaust. We're gonna put a set of Kooks Headers on that I'm pretty sure goes all the way to the back. So this thing should change dramatically in terms of sound. Let's see how it sounds right now. So we're gonna do this in steps. I'm trying to standardize these videos in terms of like doing it in a certain order so you guys know what to expect in the future. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna get some outside sound since we're changing the exhaust. Then we're gonna put it on the dyno. Then we're gonna install the Kooks Headers. Then we're gonna dyno it again, and then to complete the sandwich, we're gonna get some outside sounds as well and compare all of it together, the before and after at the end of the video. That way, you guys have a complete video all the way through, and then we'll move on to the next thing, which, who knows what that's gonna be. So this one is completely stuck. There's nothing done to it at all. In fact, that's actually a little different than the one that came in here before, which already had headers on it. This one, as you can see, has the factory headers down in here, factory intake, factory everything, except wheels. It's got wheels and it's lowered. Okay, so it's not entirely factory, but we're not gonna count that against it. So now, like any good progression build, we need to find out where we're progressing from. So we're gonna dyno this thing bone stock. Now, one of the things that I'm gonna try to do for other builds, like our turbo truck build, that I might not have told you about, is also take it to the track. However, this one is a manual transmission, and I don't feel like I'm going to be able to get any real consistent numbers, especially not on street tires. So we're going to avoid taking it to the track and seeing the real world performance because I'm probably not going to be able to perform it well there. So what we're going to do now is dyno it, get our baseline numbers, that way we can compare it. Then the next step is taking the computer out, sending it off to HP Tuners to unlock it, and then bringing it back, dynoing it again, and seeing if tuning makes a big difference. And then after that, we're going to move on to the next area of our progression.
Now, 6.2 liter supercharged Chevy V8. You've ran a ton of these. And the Camaros, they tend to make...
The Camaros, the automatics dyno a little bit better than the manual transmission. This has the opportunity to do both with the same transmissions, 10-speed versus the manual 6-speed. So if it's anything like the Camaro, this should dyno around 570, 575, where the automatics sometimes dyno in the 580, 585. So just see how well the cooling system's bled. It does have a different lid on it. There are a couple different things compared to the Camaro. So it might dyno better, it might dyno worse. So one of the things that might affect the numbers here is these are not the factory wheels. I don't know if they're heavier. I think he said they're a little lighter, but they're not the same size either. And they're wider, they're a tick taller. So it might be an issue. In fact, we need to be real careful since now we're yanking down on this a little bit. We need to make sure that it's not rubbing. So Matt, if you see any rubbing, you let me know, okay? So for this one, we're going to dyno in 4th gear. That should be our 1-to-1 ratio. And I just got to turn traction control off. If it's anything like the C8, it's going to have some stupid shit. But so far, so good. It hasn't like cut off the power. Normally it cuts off the power for a ABS sensor thing in the C8. So it doesn't appear to be the exact same issues that we get with the C8 in terms of trying to dyno it, because we tend to hit 20 miles per hour to stop. Okay, let's get our baseline pull in.
What did the Camaros tend to make?
Like 570 something.
Because this one just made 620.
Get the fuck out of here.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's impressive. Okay. Run it again.
What is happening?
Can you do it again?
624.
I'm going to run it without the load on, just to make sure that it's not some funky stuff with the load control. Sometimes people set up the load wrong, and then what happens is it skews it one way or another. Like when I went down to It's Just a 6, he dynoed like 680 on something that shouldn't have been able to do 680. So I want to make sure that that's not the case. It's going to make the pull go a lot faster. It's not going to be as loaded as a pull. So I'm going to do it right now.
That was no load, right?
No load.
613.
Okay, so the load versus no load, I'll put the load back on. Now it could be getting a little hotter now and dropping the power down. So I'll put the load back on for one final pull, and yeah, we'll see if it goes back up, and then that'll give you the difference between the load. If it's within like 1% or 2% or something like that, that's pretty darn close.
And for reference, we're not doing torque because our dyno doesn't want to read it.
Yeah, the RPM reader's a bag of dicks of the new RPM. It might read it. It looks like it kind of is. We'll see. See what happens. Okay, so our load is just a smidge off, probably, you know, in the range of about 7 horsepower, it seems. So when I turn load on, it's skewing it a little bit, trying to compensate for the load itself. Looks like this thing's pretty fresh because something's burning off of it. I think this is the first time this car actually went wide open throttle. So one of the things that I want to do right now is actually find out how the car is running. This is a difference between how the car is programmed to run, but how it's actually running. We're going to use the MPVI3. This is from HP Tuners. This allows you to connect, read, write to Global B. For a Global B computer like this, it has widebands. It's got all sorts of cool stuff with it, but it may need to be unlocked for you to be able to read certain things. So I'm going to find that out right now, if it can read the factory computer, and if it can read the factory computer in terms of parameters, live parameter access, we should get some really good data from it. If it needs to be unlocked, then I won't get good data until we get it back from HP Tuners.
So, real quick, you said this thing Global B. What is Global B versus like Gen 5 tuning?
This is all Gen 5. Gen 5 is like the type of engine and transmission that's behind it. Really the engine. This is a Gen 5 engine. Gen 4 is your LS, 2 LS, basically the LS with the electronic throttle bodies. Then there's Gen 3, which is the shit that you find in an F body. Sorry, Matt.
I have a Gen 4 engine in my car, but
yeah. So Global B is an encryption. All these computers are encrypted from the factory in order to basically prevent people from modifying their cars, and also prevent hackers from hacking into the self-drive features of newer cars and having people just veer off the road at like an inopportune time. Really weird, but like I guess this is part of the idea. with the fanciness of HP Tuner's MPVI3, we're able to actually log, read, and write. But read, not exactly read. Write, yes. Read, there's some intricacies. You'll see as we get later in the video.
Cool. So Global V Blackwing, C8, and later model GM trucks.
Yes. So what I want to see is what air-fuel ratio it's running. Since it has widebands, I can plug in my factory widebands. We're just using the car's widebands. I want to see what the car is logging as long as we can be able to see that. I want to see what timing it's running at, and if there's anything funky with the cam phasing or anything crazy like that that's allowing it to hit the 620-ish mark.
So will this be able to tell you if there's anything left on the table if you were just tuning it stock?
Maybe.
Okay. Because, I mean, that's an impressive number.
It is an impressive number. Normally, in my experience with the Gen 5 stuff, it's pretty aggressive from the factory. With the Global B version of it, with the computer's a little bit more advanced with the wideband control, I've seen it like I've seen it more aggressive because it doesn't have to have the variance with the air-fuel ratio being like, well, it could be here, it could be here. It's just exact, since it knows what the air-fuel ratio is at full throttle as well as at idle and park throttle. It just sees it everywhere. It's wide. It's a wide view of it, as opposed to a narrow band, which is just at idle and park throttle, and it takes a guess for full throttle.
Also, pretty good cooling. I mean,
The factory stuff is normally decent because it's run at such a low boost level. It's once you start putting a pulley and stuff on it, it gets pretty bad. So I'm pulling in the data features right now. It's checking them over, and we are able to read the widebands as well as like some of the other pertinent data. So that's awesome. EQ ratio 1, we're able to see that the EQ ratio is it's actually down here for both sides, both banks, so we can read it on all that. We got some good usable data here, so we're gonna try to utilize it. And if I can add IT3, I'm gonna do that right now. That's literally what I just said. I said, what the fuck? So, this is serious. This thing puts down some power.
is GM lying?
They might be, because isn't this car rated at like 640?
I thought it was rated at the LT4 power level.
650? Like, there's no way that like the drive. I'm gonna run it one more time because I want to get 2 data points here. But it looks like it's running around a 12.5 air-fuel ratio or a 0.85 lambda for you guys that actually want to do it right. It's impressive. The timing does ramp up at the end, so there's probably some more torque to be had, is my guess. But I'm gonna run it again and we'll see what it does. I'm gonna try to run it in a different mode and see if the power changes.
$625.
Okay. Did we put the front fans on?
No.
Whoops. Okay, so here's the cool stuff that I'm seeing here. In baseline form on that first pull, we see that the manifold temperatures go from 111 degrees to 124. Now this could be delayed because this sensor is actually a little slow to respond. I'm seeing that we're running about 10 pounds of boost, or 170 kPa. It starts off a little low and goes up. The throttle position, this is 84%, but it's actually 100%. 84 is just how it kind of scales. It is running a good bit of timing. I don't think we'll actually make more power. Wow, 29 degrees!
Wait, what?
It ran up to 29 degrees right at the very end. It went from 23 and jumped all the way up to 29 degrees. And then the second pull there, It did roughly the same, pulled some timing on a couple cylinders. Not sure which ones, because I wasn't logging that, but it was interesting. It's commanding about a 12.4 air-fuel ratio, 12.7 to 12.4 as it goes up in the RPM, but that's really interesting. Running 20 MPa for fuel pressure. It's yeah, very interesting. The manifold temperatures go up just a little bit. It's not killer at that boost level, so this is actually pretty darn exciting to get some good factory data here. So good stuff. We are seeing a little knock retard, so it is it's definitely one of these things that the car is pretty darn aggressive, at least in the very high end. I don't know that we're going to gain, but we're going to try. So I know that the customer said that these wheels were lighter. I don't know that they made this much of a difference. But that just goes to show you how much rotating mass plays into how much power gets to the ground. Because if it's less to rotate, I mean, if this is anything like a Camaro, this should be way lower. Oh boy, I don't know, that's a tough one. I could see maybe 10-15 horsepower, but we're not in this for the we're not in this for the dyno numbers. We're in this for the change in dyno numbers. That's what we want to see, the progression. So can we improve on this? We're going to make sure we dyno it on the same dyno, because I have 3 dynos actually, but 2 of them that you guys normally see, and we're going to make sure that we try to keep the conditions as similar as possible for this testing. So next step here, get the computer out, get it off to HP Tuners, get it back, and then start tuning it and seeing if we can make any gains. My mind is blown right now that I put down that amount of power. And it doesn't look like anything's rubbing, so that's great. I didn't see any like smoke coming from the tire areas.
Get out of the pantry.
This customer was nice enough to bring us candy and stuff.
Oh. Maybe that's why it made such a good number.
It could be.
The Goodwill Fairy.
Yeah, the Goodwill Fairy came and was like, correction. You're fat. So, we got the ECU right here under this stuff. I don't even know what this stuff is, but we're gonna have to move it out of the way in order to get the ECU out. That's what we're gonna do. It's gonna kind of kill the car for a couple days. We're gonna send this out to HP Tuners because it requires an unlock service, because you can't actually like break into this without a modification. And then what we're going to do is get it back, start tuning it on the dyno again, and then we're gonna do the next test.